take a quick look at Ben's Google News thing, and we'll sort of move on. And I want to talk a little bit about more imaginative or imaginary things that you might do, inspired by, I think it was Chris's comment. You wanted to build like, were you talking about Dungeons and Dragons? Was that you? Pardon? Somebody mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. That would, yeah, okay. That would be cool for a Dungeon and D&D master, maybe. Is that yours? Okay. Anyway, so but we'll talk about that. So what's cool about what Ben built? So just navigate around silently and sort of watch what he built. You can make that full screen. I can't go too far because I'll lose my microphone. Take it with me. So what's cool about what Ben built? What's cool about what you guys built? I mean, what's cool about what we did here? Anything, or is it at all interesting? Does it? Think of those 5 practices that we talked about. Remember the 5 practices that we used? What were? I just used those 5 words over and over again. So what's the first one? Linking. Remember linking? Transcluding. What was it? Linking. What else did you do? You've done linking, you've done transcluding. Listing. Tagging, templating. So what's linking? What's a link on the web? Or not on the web, what's a link in an interactive text? What's it mean when you... So that's the TiddlyWiki definition. So TiddlyWiki, Ben said it, say that again, what was the first word you used, the verb?
Transfers you.
Transfers. Transfers you to another tiddler. So let's pull that apart a bit. Transfers you, who's the you in Ben's description? The reader. Let's call him the reader. Sometimes, or the user, but let's call him the reader. So it transfers the reader to another tiddler. What does transfer mean? So it's movement, right? How do you transfer yourself from one room to another room in this building? Walk. Is there a link to another room? Conceptually, there's a pathway. There's a way to get there. And if you follow the directions, you'll get there. Sometimes there's signs that will point you there. In interactive text, there's a transfer that occurs when you click on a link. It moves you. So transfer is interesting. How does a link work on the web? So Ben's definition of a link was it transfers you to another tiddler. Describe how a link works in Google News. To another web page. So the object model on the web is the page. The object model in TiddlyWiki is the tiddler. Pages and tiddlers, objects. Anybody else use any other interactive texts that have different object models? Do any of you use interactive texts other than web pages and now TiddlyWiki files? Anybody play games? So what's the object model in a game? When you're on the web, you're on a page. When you're in a TiddlyWiki, you're on a tiddler. When you're in a game, when you're playing a game, you're... Where are you? Within the game, are there different places within a game? What are they called?
Levels.
levels, areas. What else? Are there different, what are all the different objects that are in a game? There's menus, characters. What is it?
Sometimes have interactive dialogue.
There's some dialogue.
Literal objects.
Like, what do you mean literal objects?
Like things that you would interact with real life. Like objects, just random, I don't know. Stuff, things, tables, chairs.
Objects representing physical entities.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not literal objects. They're a character's an object. Pieces of furniture are object. Weapons are objects. You get to create the kinds of objects you want, and you create the classes. Oh, I'm going to have some weapons. So you make a bunch of weapons. How do you make a weapon in a game? Or a chair? How do you make a chair? Yeah?
Generally, you assemble or get the required materials, follow the templates, and see where you want it.
And how do you get a chair to go here and get a chair to go here? How do you call it? How do you link to it? How do you transclude a chair into a level?
Generally,
That's what you're doing. You do these things. You just didn't have those words for it. So linking, transferring movement. In the early days of my web research, we used to talk about the idea of there would be different ways to link. You could soft link or hard link. So hard link actually was the bridge. You click on it, it would take you there. A soft link was say, go to my website, it's over there. And then you go to an open tab and type in a URL, and that would be like a soft link. You told someone to do it, and then they executed the link. We do linking. What else did we do? Did you do transcluding? Ben, did you do transcluding in here? So let's look at the first, scroll up maybe? That one, your news panel. So without looking at his code, which would you guess would be links? Can you linger over a link? That's a link. That's a link. So if you click those things, linger over a transclusion. Maybe highlight it. What's U.S. News and World Report? Where's that coming from? What is that? Meg, did you do the same thing in yours?
Yes.
Is that a transclusion? What is it? It's a what?
Like a name or it's like the person actually wrote it.
So you're describing the content.
Call it transcluding.
But-
Transcluding the field.
Let's describe the action. Describe the practice, the action that the writer is doing. What did Ben do to make, where to go? Yeah, let's look at your code here. Not that one, the code for news panel. Yeah. What did Ben write? He's a writer. What did Ben write to transclude the source of the story? Derek, do you see that? What did he write? Because writers write. That's why I keep calling it writing. It's you're writing. Right? Stuff came out the ends of your fingertips. Okay, where's the transclusion there? Where's the act of transcluding? Marguerite, do you see? Where's the active? Where's he transcluding here? Let's look at what he wrote. So what's this first line do? $ list filter equals. What practice has been engaging in when he typed that line of code? Linking, tagging, transcluding, listing, or templating.
Listening.
Yeah, he's listing. What's he asking for? He says, I want a list of tiddlers that are tagged with news story. Okay. I want a list of the characters in my game that died in level 1. I want a list of characters in my game that don't appear until level 3. What other kinds of lists might you want of your objects in different settings? Yeah.
Organized by role, rarity, and damage type. If you're making a filter that would organize your inventory for you.
So give me a sentence. I want a list of objects that.
Well, a list of objects that have epic rarity and 50 damage per second.
Okay. Have. What do you mean by have? You use the verb. I want a list of objects that have. Well, how do you know if an object has something?
It would generally be classified under tag of epic, and
It might be tagged epic, or it might have a field value that's within a certain range. Okay, so now we're beginning to build out this notion of what listing does. So that's one of the things you do all the time. How do you list on Google Docs? On Google Drive, sorry. How does Google manage lists for you? Or how does Windows or Mac OS X manage lists? What are the objects on your hard drive that you care about? What's the object model of a hard drive? You access stuff on the hard drive at the bit level? No, there's lots of bits, but you don't deal with bits. What do you deal with? You deal with files. Right? So a hard drive is organized by files. How many files are on your hard drive? A lot. Is there an organizational structure that helps you manage and keep track of where things are? What do you use for that? What do you use?
folders.
Use folders? Does anybody use anything other than folders? No. And then each file belongs to a single folder? Is that right? Can't be in more than one folder? You can build a symbolic link, but they're sort of fake. So each file is effectively tagged with the name of its folder. If you change the name of the folder, all the tags on those files change. And there's the back end of the operating system that keeps track of this. You don't have to see it. There's subfolders. Anybody use Gmail? Anybody use folders in Gmail? Do you? Do you maintain them?
No.
Yeah. I have thousands of folders that are not maintained. How do you organize shit in Gmail? How do you find stuff in Gmail?
Search for the tags.
Yeah, do you use tags?
I do use tags.
And you maintain them?
For the most part.
Wow, you're good, right? But there's reasons that not many people maintain tags in Gmail. But everybody, not everybody, all right, most people maintain some minimal file structure on their hard drives. There are some people who put everything they've ever touched on their desktop. That's crazy, right? You can't live like that. But not many people that I know use any organizational structure for Gmail. Why not? How do you find stuff in Gmail? You just search. Because search is so fast and so effective and so easy. And it's context sensitive in a sense. Every Gmail message is tagged with every word that's in it. So that's kind of a weird way to think of your Gmail as a tiddlywiki, right? Tagging and linking. And so the idea of tagging works for folders. We don't use it in Gmail because they made search so effective and cheap that it's not really worth it for us. Same with Google. Like, you just Google stuff and you keep narrowing your gaze until you find what you're looking for. But we're going to work with organizing these texts that belong to us and demand something more than simple search to find things, navigate. So we need to list things. You know how to list because you list all the time in Gmail. How do you list in your operating system? Anybody search their hard drive all the time? Ignoring your file structure? Yeah, that's basically making a list. List all the files that have this word. Okay, let's look at his next line, because we're still looking for how he got that source up there, where he transcluded. Does he transclude in the next line? What does he do in the next line? H1 link title / link / H1.
He's creating a heading of the titles of each tiddler.
Is he's a writer.
Yes.
Is he linking, tagging, templating, transcluding, or listing? Is he creating the opportunity for the reader to transfer themselves from one tiddler to another? Okay, precisely because he uses that command. He brackets some text between the single bracket $ link and the single bracket / link. Whatever text he puts in the middle is going to be the text that's displayed. And if you click on that, it will take you to the link that he asked for. What's he linking to? What tiddler are you linking to, Ben? No, you're linking to the tiddler to the transcluded title of the tiddler, not to the tiddler called title. Okay. And there's a default in here, which will soon annoy you, which links to what's called the current tiddler. Okay, so once you make a list, now you've got a bunch of tiddlers in your cycle, in your spool, in your memory. They're ready. You have to do something with the list. What Ben wants to do, first thing he wants to do is build a list to the first tiddler. Build a link to the first tiddler. Okay, that tiddler is called current tiddler. Okay, so Ben, if you add to where it says link, space,
Right here.
yep, right there, space 2 equals, I'm sorry, the word to, TO, equals, and sometimes you put it in quotes, sometimes you don't, and I can never remember the difference, but we're not going to here. We're going to put the name of a variable that's set by default, and a variable opens with double angle brackets. Those are curly braces. Those are square brackets. There's one more. Double angles. Those are parentheses.
Which ones are we talking about?
The same one that you use for in front of link and list.
Oh,
There it is. And the name of this variable is called current tiddler, written in camel case, a lowercase c, a capital T. Capital T for tiddler. Tiddler. And then close it with 2 angles. And yes, there are 3 angles there, which is annoying. Okay, so this doesn't change what happens to his code. You can hit the expose your button, the last button, this one, right here. There. That doesn't change anything. But what if we didn't want to display the title? What if you wanted to display the source? So on your link, change title to source. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now what's Ben doing? Ben is building a link. Did his behavior change? He's building a link to a tiddler. Now what tiddler is he building a link to? So even though the text of the link says something different, if you click on it, it's going to take you to the same place because it's still going to the current tiddler. You can click on U.S. News and World Report, and it's going to take you to don't lower the bar for Donald Trump. So, okay, there's linking. Go back to your code. And I extended sort of that notion of linking. You can change it back to title because it doesn't make any sense. But sometimes it will. Okay. What's he doing on the next line of code? Linking, tagging, templating, transcluding, or listing? What's he transcluding?
Fields from tiddler.
So Ben is transcluding the value of the field source from the tiddler, from the current tiddler. Okay. On the line before, by the way, where he's got title, he's technically transcluding as well. So on that line, he's engaging in he's linking to a tiddler and transcluding its title. So these things mix and match on the same lines of code. Yeah. Which of the practices are not evident in this tiddler? There's linking. So you could go ahead and say tag it to linking.
For what?
For news panel, let's just tag news panel to linking. So, because that's the one practice we didn't engage in yet. So let's tag this tiddler news panel to linking. Let's add the tag linking to the current tiddler news panel, which you do by clicking on tag name. And you've been tagging, but it's not in code.
Or you would tag something.
There it is, yeah. So let's tag it to linking. So the practice of tagging, the way that I've shown you how to do it, is includes adding a descriptive characteristic or label that describes the object. And it can do anything, and we're going to explore all sorts of different uses of tags. There's all sorts of ways that people use tagging. But the way you tag a tiddler, you can do it in code, but I'm not going to show you that code. You can find it if you'd like. There's ways to tag it through code, but you basically do it almost manually. You put it up in that little interface there that adds it as a tag. So let's tag this to linking, tagging, transcluding. You don't have to do it. Okay, but you're going to do this on the next exercise. We're going to tag the practices that you're engaging in. Okay, thanks. Did you do a template? You did. Let's click on don't lower the bar for Trump. And did you template that or no? So you would search for template. I don't see a template.
Oh, I had to remake this one, so it might be my other one.
Yeah, you can keep them. Why'd you have to remake it?
Because I accidentally named it something weird and it wouldn't do it otherwise. Yeah, no, I don't think I made a template for it.
Okay. Anybody make a template to govern their news stories? Anybody get a template going? You got one? You want to join the Zoom room? You go to Design Right and search for Zoom. That'll take you a few minutes, so we'll come back. So you've played with this a bunch, and I've just kept giving you like stuff to do, but you don't really know why yet. So what if your next exercise were make a Tiddlywiki that demonstrates your understanding of the practices, linking, tagging, listing, templating, and transcluding? What would you make? What kinds of texts are you making in the next 2 weeks for other parts of your life? Does anybody have any other classes that require you to do things for them? Does anybody like, I don't know, think about their finances and have maybe a bunch of different accounts to pay? Does anybody care about keeping track of the games they have, or anybody building a game, or writing a research paper, or building a website? What are you engaged in doing? What are you making in the next couple of weeks, or what would you want to make in the next couple of weeks?
Information design, poster,
You have to make a poster for which class?
information design.
Oh, for 320?
Yes.
I don't have my marker. So it's a that really sucks, doesn't it?